Hey, this is Bob in the Don't Die podcast, brought to you by Ohana Fest down in Dana Point, and brought to you by Live Nation, bringing you concerts all over the world. It all begins with getting off drugs, people. Let's go out and live life. Get sober, get the right treatment for you, and stop dying. Stop dying, Chuck, and you are here, Chuck.
Yes, I am.
And you're not dying.
No, I refuse to be dying today. Too much, man. Ollie Wisdom and Charlie
Chuck.
Watts.
Hi, how are you? I know. That's the big news right there, man.
Yeah.
That's young. 80 years old for somebody who has that much money. Seems like he could dump into...
Oh, my God, Mike.
You know,
does money make you immortal?
Well, yeah. You buy the best doctors. You go to France, get your blood changed.
Of anyone we've ever known personally, did anybody have more money than Kurt Cobain? I thought he died. He died.
Well,
he didn't hear the podcast.
He had a lot
obviously.
of money. He had a lot of money. Obviously, he didn't get the memo that Mike sent out. People with money don't die until they're at least in their late 80s.
You know what I'm talking about? Dick Cheney's like fucking a titanium man. He's had so many things done to him.
Well, he's a different
he'll be alive.
kind of...
Yeah, he'll be alive forever. Probably Bill Gates. Bill Gates will probably be alive forever. Elon Musk will probably live forever.
Things have become so politically crazy that I don't hate Dick Cheney as much as I used to. Because, Chuck, it's so true. Because every time somebody has died since the Bush-Cheney presidency, since they left office, every time somebody cool died, I would say, but Dick Cheney's still alive? And now I'm just like, Dick Cheney's daughter's cool. He's fighting the good fight. I don't know.
You know,
it's so crazy. It's crazy what's happened in this country politically, Chuck, in the last 5 years.
It's topsy-turvy.
Nuts.
It's topsy-turvy.
Yeah.
You know, remember when George Bush Jr. sat with...
Junior.
Just Mike, you either call him W or Bush 2. He's either W
He's Junior to
or
me.
Bush 2.
The big guy got him in the chair. He's still Junior to me. But remember when it was raining and he was putting the thing... I mean, every time the guy gets in front of a camera, it's funny. I don't care if it's a shoe thrown at him, a fucking...
Yeah, he's flirting with Michelle Obama.
You know, he's just like, the dude's a hilarious dude.
Yeah, that was fun.
But it is true that I have said for years, and now all of a sudden, I don't know, my heart has softened for Dick Cheney. And like, I don't think like, oh, and Dick Cheney's still alive. But obviously it hasn't softened for Mike because that's the first person Mike brought up when Charlie Watts died.
It has not. I draw the line at Dick Cheney and Halliburton and the whole fucking mess.
So listen to this. So, Mike, Chuck, I'm sorry, I've been sick and it's been hard for the three of us to get together. But Mike and I did a podcast yesterday or day before. It was the day before.
It was Sunday.
Sunday. And Mike convinced me that I had COVID. I don't know if you know this or not. Right?
No.
So Mike, it told
Chuck,
me. And then Chrissy believed it. Well, let me tell you something, Mike Mark. I went and got tested today. I got that thing shoved up my nose for 10 seconds on each side. I am negative. I do not have COVID.
Oh, excellent.
I'm just sick from this booster shot. And being old. The other thing, I'm old. Old people don't get around as good.
Where did you get the test that goes immediately? Like that you can get
at my friend's lab in Irvine, California, which you're very close by there, Mike, constantly.
Did it cost you? How much did it cost?
No, it's a friend of mine's lab. She did it for free.
Oh, okay. So can I go there with my kids?
Yeah. Sure.
All right. I'll get the number.
We just started doing testing at my work all the time, and I don't have to do it because of the vaccination. But that's good. You had a reaction, Bob. It means that you have a formidable immune system.
Or does it mean I'm old and sickly and weak?
No, the old sickly people have less reaction. The people that are less healthy have less reaction.
Oh, you're just making me feel good.
I'm absolutely not. That's what I heard that from.
Where did you get that information?
Oh, wait a second. Just
is that
stop.
On Facebook?
You guys
wait
know
a minute.
information.
Is that on Facebook, Chuck?
Oh, I don't get information from the internet like you guys. I talk to people in the medical profession.
So it has kicked my ass. Today is day 5. And now remember, I told you guys, but I didn't tell the public, when I got the second shot of Moderna, it kicked my ass too. But let me tell you something. And I lied about it because I didn't want to discourage people from getting vaccinated. Now I'm just telling the truth. I've decided, Chuck, just to tell the truth. And the fact is, this was a fucking doozy. I was sick for 3 days, pretty much like I had the flu. And then now I'm fine. And then like all of a sudden I get exhausted. I fell asleep face down that night that you and I, we were supposed to do the podcast. Chrissy couldn't wake me like I was dead or something. And I just get so exhausted wherever I am, I just lay down and go to sleep.
Right. Well, from what I heard from a friend of mine who's a nurse, and that was exactly what he said, is that this stuff, your body reacts to it. Reacts to the mRNA because it's designed to attack the spikes on the COVID. That's the way it doesn't work on the body of the virus, because that's going to be ever changing. But the spikes stay the same. That's what's recognizable. And the stronger your immune system, the more your body reacts to the injection. So the people that didn't get sick, but you might have had a reaction.
I still don't believe it, but I'm
Why
really
is that
happy you're
funny,
saying this stuff.
Sorry,
I didn't
man.
get any information from the internet. I got it from a medical professional.
It makes the spikes smaller?
No,
That's not what I said, Mike.
latches on to the spikes that are on the top of the thing that's on the cell. You know, that's interesting, Chuck. 99% of the people I talk to don't even know what you're talking about. Their life is destroyed or consumed, and people are killing themselves over something they just won't take an hour to try to understand. Do you know what I'm saying?
Are you talking about me?
No, not you. Though you may be, wait a minute, though you may be friends with some of those people, Mike.
Yeah, you know, it is still something that is so much of it's not really a mystery. The idea that it's going to be around for a long time, but hopefully it just gets to a point where it's weakened enough. Like the Delta run was bad, man. It still is not good. And it's making people sick. But when I saw the numbers for the people in LA that were vaccinated that died from the Delta, it was like 0.0013%.
It's like
the
4
deaths,
people
of the thousands and thousands of deaths. So it is effective from what we're seeing, but really, we've got Amy has a cousin who posted the numbers out of her hospital. So it wasn't through a news source. And it doesn't have to have a lean. It was actual people that came in, people that were positive and sent home, people that were positive and admitted, and people that were admitted that required ventilation, and people that were admitted that died. So it's like, when you look at it that way, it's not some host trying to bump up their numbers. It's the hospital keeping track for themselves. Well, maybe for some extra money, you know. But the idea of it's just so multifaceted. And I do like what you said with that, where it's like one of those things where people don't even understand what the vaccine is, how it works, because they think they're getting injected with a modified live virus or a killed virus like we used to do. And that's not what's happening.
I would say 9 out of 10 people that I talk to, that are all scared about it. Here's the interesting thing, Chuck. They're scared about it, but they eat McDonald's every day. I don't get it. I don't get how the mentality. They never question all the grain in all the foods. They never question the farmer subsidies that just stuff grain down our throats like a slob piss, just slobbing it in there because nobody wants grain, right?
Did you have French fries today from McDonald's, Bob?
No, I had no McDonald's today. I'm cutting it all out. I saw a picture. So Chrissy took a picture of me holding Idris a couple days ago. And my belly was so big, I was like, that is unacceptable. So I've been on a fast. So I ate cherries and grapes and lemon love master cleanse today. That's all I've eaten. It also makes me really kind of flighty and happy, too, to not eat.
You can't do the master cleanse and eat.
No, well, I do the Bob way.
It has instructions. But
Just
instructions are for ladies.
Just the fucking lemonade.
I do the master cleanse kind of augmented by you're gonna love this, by grapes, cherries, and cotton candy grapes from Sprouts. So these are
Those
genetically
things scare me.
those are
GMO grapes.
genetically mutated to taste like cotton candy. But then, so this has been going on for 2 days since Sunday when the picture was taken. And it was a side view, so no matter how hard I tried to crop myself out of it, you could just see how ginormous I was. So I've been doing fruit and the Master Cleanse stuff, but then last night I had some cinnamon gummy bears.
God.
Why the sugar?
Dude,
That's
this
just
sounds like
sugar.
this sounds like the watermelon diet that you and Anthony went on.
Yeah,
The
me and
watermelon.
Anthony. Oh, Chuck, you're gonna love this. So when we first met Mike, me and Anthony had a whole kind of biological theory about drug use. And the thing was, I and he had both been to hospitals for, like not ODing, but whatever. I had been to a hospital for like OD kind of.
Endocarditis.
What they do is they put you on saline. They just make you sit in the hallway in a thing and take a bag of saline. So I'm not that dumb. I know it's just sugar water. So then he and I translated this, that if in your active addiction of shooting speedballs for 3 or 4 days until you ran out of money, if you just only ate watermelon for like 2 days, that's all like sugar water.
That's like a banana bag. Yeah.
It's like going to the hospital. And it worked. But then when I pointed it out to Dr. Drew years later, he said, "How old were you guys?" And I said, like 22. And he's like, "It's because you were 22, not because of watermelon."
No, that would happen to me every once in a while with the drinking. I'd end up at the hospital from dehydration because
and they just give you one of those
IV
IV bags. It's just sugar water.
Hook you up and send you out. Drug addicts chose to do what they do, but no one gets mad at people that are 100 pounds overweight.
I'm not even going down that road. I'm saying these people are now the very people that are questioning the most miraculous medicine ever created in our lifetime. Right? So when you go through the study of the Pfizer thing that the FDA just approved, it is proven, Chuck, and this is out of the actual documents of that was turned in and approved. It is safer than aspirin. 300 Americans a year die from aspirin consumption. No one, not one human being has died from the Pfizer vaccine. Yet these people are just nuts about it. I do believe the Delta variant is scaring the shit out of people. More people are going to get vaccinated that were like on the fence. I don't know how you can be on the fence with not dying. But I guess drug are on the fence too, right? Our whole show is the premise that we tell addicts you can die if you're on fentanyl, and they're kind of on the fence about it. Right?
Yeah, but we know their brains are fouled up because of the drugs. We know they can't think clearly. I mean,
so guess what I found out? You know how there's this kind of racist attitude towards Mexico, and Trump kind of fueled that fire, but it already existed. Guess what country has a higher vaccination rate percentage-wise than America?
Oh, don't even say Mexico.
Mexico. I'm just like, holy God. Like everything that you think about America is wrong and backwards and twisted upside down and these people, and there's going to be no convincing them of that. They'll probably say that's not true. No, it's actually true. It's in the WHO report. It's actually true. Mexico has a higher vaccination percentage rate than America.
I wonder if they had any political splitting on the vaccine or the cause or anything like that to get in their way and keep them from being able to make a clear decision. Or
do they have Facebook? I'm sure they have Facebook. I'm sure there's misinformation. It's just Americans. Here's the thing. Americans are just so fucking gullible. They really are. What did P.T. Barnum say? Never underestimate the gullibility of the American public. I mean, he said that 120 years ago. Right.
Oh, speaking of 100, this weird fact came out the other day, and that was the difference between 1980, because I'm always talking about the 80s and how much I love the 80s. The difference between 1980 and 2021 is the same as the difference between 1980 and 1939. as far as
Oh,
years.
really?
So when you think about from 1939 to 1980 was 41 years. So when I'm talking about 1980, that's like the difference between 1939 and 1980 is the same as 1980 to 2021. No wonder I'm out of touch.
Well, no, but you know what I think when you say 1939? That was the year, in the fall of that year, when FDR was given quantifiable evidence that the concentration camps existed. And he chose to kind of just stay out for another 18 months until Pearl Harbor was bombed.
Huh. So
You
same
know what I
shit.
Yeah, nothing changes. Nothing changes.
Same shit. 82 years
And I
later.
love FDR. I understand. He was like, what the fuck are we going to do?
Can you imagine
You know
if you'd
what I
had
mean?
Facebook and Instagram to compete with?
Yeah. Well, back then, like how many people knew about it? Maybe 12 high up in the Pentagon and FDR, and they're all sitting at a table and they go, "So, Mr. President, what do you want to do?" And he's like, "How about we do nothing?"
Oh, can you imagine that?
Can you imagine getting
someone
away with
would've-
that now? Oh
No
my
way.
God, that would never happen.
And that was really when a president was a president, before they sort of decentralized their powers and put everybody else, to run the different departments, and they just kind of put their stamp on stuff.
I just love that. How about we do nothing?
I cannot imagine the hateful posts that would have gone up.
My God, that guy would not have had a moment's peace till the day he died.
The South would have rose up against. Why are
Look
we
at
sending our
did you
boys
see the
over
newest
there?
thing? They're going after Bob Dylan. They're going. Bob Dylan apparently molested a girl in 1965. Mike, is it?
Yep,
That
65.
was a long ass time ago.
Yep, 2 years before I was born, and I'm old, and that's just what do you
Here's the thing: they filed that case just before this 50-year.
the day before.
Yeah,
the day before they got it in just under the wire.
We're living in some insane times.
What was okay in the 60s and 70s wouldn't have been okay in the 80s.
The girl is 12 years old. There is no decade ever in America that is okay.
Yeah, but we don't even know that it happened.
Well, that's the truth. And we were told, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago that we could never say that question. We could never make that statement. So now everybody's, just mums a word. I talked to a friend today and he said, "What do you think is going to happen with the Dylan stuff?" And I said, "I don't know. It seems to be like it took my breath away when I woke up that morning and it was on my phone. And I had to sit up. I was stunned. Right. And I read what was in the little bit that was in the news. And then I followed it up, and then it was a couple of days and everybody started talking about it. Then it just kind of like nothing. It doesn't seem to be building speed the way that the Louis C.K. thing did, and I do not put Harvey Weinstein in this category. That guy is a fucking monstrous rapist. But Louis C.K. and all the things that came afterwards, Ryan Adams, that's this category. It seems like and what you said, and you're never supposed to be able to question anything, right? Don't blame the victim.
That's not victim blaming. If I don't say we're not sure it happened, it's not blaming the victim.
So get this. So I did this kind of thing with my own memory, right? Because the victim is probably a little bit older than me. I was born in 61, so the victim was 12 and 65, so they're like 7 years older than me. So at my age, 60 years old, with my memory, I tried to remember when I was 12, what kind of car did we have? What grade was my sister in? Just little facts of when I was 12. I was 12 in 1973. In February of 1973, I turned 12. So
did anything traumatic happen?
Yeah, everything traumatic stuff's always happening. My parents were alcoholic, Chuck. Jesus.
Well, you probably remember those things. You probably remember the trauma. That's what I'm saying. Trauma makes it easier to recall.
My sister had an abortion before Roe v. Wade, right? and it went terribly wrong. And she was home at our house bleeding everywhere. And this is what's had an impact on me about Roe v. Wade. Like, I try to stay out of other people's business. I don't think it's the right of a man to tell a woman what to do, but I have a visceral, traumatic remembrance of my sister going to a motel and getting an abortion with a doctor and a nurse. It went terribly wrong. She came home. She was bleeding everywhere. It was the first time I knew that women bled. And my mom was up in arms. My dad was staying in the other part of the house. It was just chaos. And I went to my sister and I said, "Are you okay?" And she was crying and she said, "Bobby, I'm okay." And I was like, "But you're bleeding." And she was like, "I'm okay, Bobby." And I just remember that, right? And what came from that is she ended up being sterile from that, right? Which led to, just a lot of pain and suffering in her life. And so every time somebody says, "You got to get rid of Roe v. Wade," I think of my sister in those 2 days when she was bleeding and my dad was all mad and she had gone to a motel by herself to get an abortion with these two strangers she didn't even know. I mean, think about that. Is that what we want to go back to?
Yeah, back alley style abortions. That's what they call them.
That whole back alley comment, it was in motels.
The idea is that it's not, it's not right. And it's not in the doctor's office and the safety isn't there.
No, I'm just saying about your memory when you're 12, because this person is now recalling things. I know a couple of victims that have come forward in this, right? I don't want to get into detail, but really the media just uses them and then throws them away after the news cycle. They really do. You think the New York Times cares about those women, the accusers of Louis C.K.? They don't give a fuck about those women.
Nope.
They're just used in that news cycle. And there's so much attention that the New York Times staff give those women while the story is being written and while it's coming out, then follow up and all the clicks and all the clicks and all the clicks. And then it just goes away, like that woman with Kavanaugh. Then it just goes away. That woman with Kavanaugh was the most watched human being on the face of the earth for like 5 days.
And the fact that I don't know her name, you don't know her name. We don't even know her name.
It's so fucked up. I just don't know what's driving this and what justice is and what they're trying to get. And Mike's pointing out they're trying to get money. Yes, she is suing civilly. So I imagine that leads to money. But that also tells me that the Dylan world knew about this and wouldn't pay, right? That's where the civil lawsuits and all these accusations and very little evidence, that's where it does seem like what Mike's suggesting, which is like, it's kind of like blackmail. Like, yeah, pay me and I'll not say anything. Don't pay me and your life is going to be ruined. It's kind of weird. I don't know what we're trying to achieve. I want us to get wherever a more positive relationships and respectful society, but I don't see that. I don't see any evidence of that. I see things have gotten a million times worse in the last 5 years. So it's just some strange times, but Charlie Watts dying makes me think, the dominoes that are coming. And, it's kind of crazy.
And they're all up there in age for living the lives that most of the musical heroes have. The fact that they make it to 80 is crazy to me. Can you guys hear
Peppa barking? The bear is out here. Oh my God.
Oh no.
Oh my God. Why does a dog bark at a bear? You ever think of that? If I was a dog, I'd want to be very quiet around a bear.
Yeah, I'd be hiding. I'd throw a little human outside.
He could say, "Come over here, motherfucker, eat me. Come over here and fucking swat me in the head." But anyways, because I've known, and it's ironic, I've known, Keith Richards, my all-time idol. I wore a Keith Richards shirt today. Yesterday I wore a shirt that says who the fuck is Mick Jagger? You ever seen Keith Richards have that shirt?
Yeah.
I was wearing that shirt yesterday, not knowing Charlie was dying. And then today I wore a Keith Richards shirt. So Keith Richards has always been my guy, and I think it's Mike's guy too, since I was probably 15. Like Keith Richards, dude. Keith Richards. And then I realized if Charlie's dying, someday Keith Richards is going to die. And am I going to be alive then? Or is he going to outlive me? That's even crazier.
Yeah. The idea that anybody that's, 20 years older than us would outlive us when they did the same stuff. You know what I mean? It's not like they're immune. And it is going to be a bummer because the ones that died early are the shocking ones. Like when Tom Petty went out too soon, even though he was older.
That didn't shock
Prince
me. Yeah, how long had it been since you saw Tom Petty? I told Chrissy when we were walking out of the Pasadena show that he did at the Rose Bowl, I was like, there's something up with him. He does not look good, right? He looked really so thin, so frail. And Tom Petty was never he was always a thin guy, but he never seemed frail. And at the last show I saw him about 8 months before he passed away, he looked so frail. And, and ironically, then I think before that, I had gone to the Forum to see the Eddie Vedder, Chris Cornell band. What was that called? Where they made one record.
It was Temple of the Dog.
Temple of the Dog. So Temple of the Dog played the Forum. And I was in the Forum Club and Chris Cornell was there. And I just looked at him and I was like, there's no way a 50-year-old man can be that thin. There's just no way. Mm-hmm. Something's up with him. And I said to his good friend, I said, is he all right? And he said, yeah, he could use it talking to you. And I was like, oh my God, not. And why am I always the one that has to talk to people? Shouldn't their best friend talk to him, Chuck?
Yeah,
it's like some stranger's going to walk up like, hey, I met you in 1987. I just wanted to sit down and talk about it. You look like you're on drugs. Like, why am I always the guy that's got to do that? Chuck, are you with me?
I get
are
it
you
more
that
than
guy
you think.
in your circle of friends? Are you that guy?
I am that guy.
Isn't it the fuckiest position to be in? I'm just trying to see a concert, and he looks like maybe he needs a friend. I'm not the friend. I don't even know the guy.
No, I'm happy to coach somebody on what they should probably talk about. But I don't like, because you have to sit down and you got to get so much background to be able to be effective with people. You got to hear them first. And they already know them. I go, you know what? Just tell them that you're worried about them and ask them what's going on. Talk to them.
And then ironically, people I do know that I would approach, they avoid me like the fucking plague. Right? I've seen people like, I'm talking about other musicians, right?
Yeah.
I walked into wherever it was a Palladium. I was in the Palladium's dressing rooms are really small. And I was in one talking to somebody, and then you kind of stand in the hall to talk because it's so small there. Stand in the hall, and I look in the room, and I see a guy I know that's just fucked up out of his mind. And he saw me, and I was talking to somebody else, and I was going to beeline right to him, right? He wasn't playing the concert that night. He was just there. And when I'm wrapping up a conversation, I literally looked at him and I was like, holy fuck, I need to take him outside and talk. And I'm talking to this guy, and I say, okay, well, I'll see you after or whatever. And then I go to turn to go right 10 feet away where the guy was standing, and he's fucking gone. So then I walk in that room, and he's friends with the band that was playing. I go, where's so-and-so? And they go, he saw you and he fucking beelined out
He didn't want to hear it.
So I can't help. I can't help people I don't know. The family members and friends and the people around that person, yes, need to be guided by somebody, helped by somebody to help that person help themselves. You can't get somebody else to do it for you. Right? That's one rule. Second rule is you can't really help your closest friends because they're just like, it's too intimate. Like I was able to help Pashante, but he was willing. He was ready. You know what I mean? If I would have gone to him 5 years before, he would have been, fuck you, get out of my house. I've had that experience. I've had that where you just go bum rush somebody's house, and they're like, the person, like we went to Matt Dyke's house, this guy I loved so much, and he was just so fucked up for so long. And we go over to his house, and he opened the little viewfinder. He had this door that had like a metal grate on it, and the little tiny like 1 foot door open. And we were all four. I was trying to think, is Matt, me, Rick, it was 5 of us standing on his porch, and he goes, "What the fuck do you guys want?"
Yeah.
And he knew exactly what we wanted, Mike Mart. He knew exactly.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
were after him. You were after
We
him.
were after him.
You were the enemy. He was avoiding the enemy.
Another time, me and Anthony broke into his house and we're going through there yelling for him and whatever. And years later, he told me I was hiding behind the curtain in the bedroom. So I don't know.
In plain sight, really.
Yeah, right behind the curtain. Well, he had these blackout curtains. You couldn't see through them. But so anyways, it's not the easiest thing to help your best friend or help your family member or help somebody that you're all codependent with. That's a difficult thing. So then who, you know what I'm saying, Chuck? You couldn't help your own kids. I could help them a little bit more better than you could.
Yeah.
And so what is that you can't be too close and you can't be too far away. You got to be just right in order to help.
But anytime I go anywhere, there's always, it doesn't matter if it's Alex's, if it's Fitzgerald's, if it's Gallagher's, any of the local pubs, bars, tiki bar, wherever I go to see bands, there's always a couple people that come up to me during the night and they tell me how much less they're drinking now and how they're not doing this and how they're not doing that. And I go, I don't care, man. But if you try to stop and find that you can't, give me a call. We'll go to some meetings. We'll do something. I mean, other than that, I mean, I think family, the people that mean the most to someone.
Let's face it, the people that are supplying the comfortability for the addict, whoever's supplying the cell phone and the lovely pillow to rest their head and their drug money and their health insurance and you know what I mean? That person has the most power.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
100%. That's why I love talking to the parents and getting the parents involved.
So do you say, here's an interesting thing, because I started this a long time ago. So I say you should cut him off completely. Just let it roll. This is before fentanyl, by the way. I've kind of altered my theory now with fentanyl.
Right.
Chuck.
We have to.
You have to. But this is like 20 years ago. I said, let it roll. And the dad goes, well, you're talking about like cancel his health insurance? And I was like,
nope.
No, I'm not talking about that.
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, get yourself a PPO.
The dad said the health insurance is equals everything else that we pay for. The cell phone, gas once in a while, food card, whatever. His health insurance is like $500. And, they gave him an $80 food card once a week, and they paid his $50 cell phone bill. So he was like, why not the health insurance? And I was like, because then I can't help him.
Right. Because it costs money to run a business.
That was the honest truth. Right.
And then comes the conversation, should drug treatment be free?
I think you'll get what you pay for sure.
I don't know.
Right.
This conversation comes up all the time, but you guys know it was a different time, and we have to be able to change tactics. Just like things change.
You have to evolve. And that's one of the problems I've had with AA. I mean, AA hasn't evolved at all.
Right. And that's why it will die on the vine if it doesn't.
I don't know. I think it's just kind of like a cult, and everybody sees what they want to see. What I like is that everybody's together. Now, what's broken down over the last 10 years is what is sobriety? That is an existential question, right?
Right.
It really is becoming a question of what is sobriety.
One of the original criteria of Alcoholics Anonymous was that if you just didn't drink booze, you were sober. You could take Mother's Little Helper. You could take little uppers and downers. And
NA was, but go back to your history book about NA. You could drink and be an NA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
You could. You were clean. You were clean, but you weren't sober.
But that's only because, people didn't know the difference. It wasn't because they were willfully stupid.
Well, I'm saying that it's always been this gray line that people love to fucking make grayer. Just blur the line and fucking confuse.
The treatment centers have made it grayer. Are you sober if you're on Suboxone as prescribed? Just both of you answer that question for me.
Well, no, I don't want to answer that question. Because it hurts. You know, I think it hurts people that might die without it right now. That's the only reason. I think it puts people at risk.
But I got a great solution. They already hate AA. Don't go. Just be on your Suboxone, get a job, and be like everybody else. They don't.
Right.
You don't need Psycho Support Network if you're taking 12 milligrams of methadone. You don't.
Yeah, right.
If you're taking, 8 milligrams of Suboxone every day, you don't need to go to Psycho Support Network. You don't.
No,
I just don't think you do. I don't think you do.
That's not how. Yeah. That's not how dopamine works. You know, the idea of getting the here and now chemicals and using less of the desired dopamine, it doesn't work when you stay on drugs. And that is staying on drugs. I'm saying
that my experience in early sobriety, and I consider early sobriety the first 4 or 5 years, not just the first 4 or 5 months. The first 5 years, if I had a bad day, if I was in a bad mood, if I was suicidal, if I was ready to give up, if I was depressed, if I was anxious, if I went to a meeting, my mood state changed and was influenced by the meeting. Right. Now, and I used to be just fascinated by that fact. How can I be, if I'm sitting at home at 6 o'clock and I know I'm supposed to go to 7:30 to Tropical and I don't want to go, I had a shitty day, I got a shitty life, I fucking hate myself and I want to die. But I started doing what Buddy Arnold and Gloria Scott told me to do, which is just go anyways, regardless of what your brain tells you, just go. And I swear to God, by 9 o'clock, I felt differently.
Yeah.
I don't think you can have that experience while you're on Suboxone. I don't think you can.
I don't think you can do it while you're anesthetized, and I think you're anesthetized.
I don't think you can. That's the only real value AA had to me. I hate everything they fucking say. It was just that it had this positive influence. It never made me feel worse. It made me angry, but that's not necessarily worse. Right? Self-pity, self-obsession, depression. That's what I'm battling. And if I get angry and want to argue with somebody about God or the steps, that's a positive step. That's a step in a positive direction. Right? But
Your
a lot of times
focused.
I just felt good. And then, to go out with your 2 best buddies like Dave and Anthony and go eat afterwards, it was just so great. It changed how I felt at 6 o'clock. If I'm on Suboxone, I know it doesn't. I know it doesn't.
No, and I'll
tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because the people you go to dinner with afterwards don't approve of Suboxone. So you got to lie or feel ashamed or argue that it's your doctor and it's nobody's business. You're in this negative space, this negative state, going into an abstinence-based 12-step support group and taking a mind-altering substance. You're going to have nothing but conflict within yourself if you have 2 brain cells, but also with your peers, right?
Right.
Because unless you just have the strongest sense of self, that if somebody says you're not sober, you're on Suboxone, you say, no, I'm sober, fuck you. And you really truly are settled internally. But that's not the experience I've had with thousands of people on Suboxone. They go, fuck that guy, fuck this, I'm never coming back here, fuck that. I might as well get loaded. Fuck you, Bob. Fuck AA. I've had that happen 100 times. I swear to God.
And that's not even a sober mindset. We that's what I think they're missing out on. They don't get the feel goods that come with being sober either, because they're anesthetized, right? They don't get to feel the ups and the downs and that excitement or wanting to whatever. They work on a totally different level. Let's
go through the opiate withdrawal, not fentanyl. Let's keep that out. Let's keep synthetic opiates out. Heroin withdrawal. I'm on day 5. I just a whole chill and sweatiness came over me just now, just just in the last 90 seconds, right? So I was feeling pretty good. Now all of a sudden I feel that, right? This is the flu. This is what dope sickness is. I'm not as bad as I was yesterday. I'm 5 days out. Day 3 was the worst. Sunday was the worst, right?
Okay.
I didn't know, but I didn't have my mind gnawing at me. Bob, if you do heroin, you won't feel like this. I just knew I need to count the days. I need to get to a certain day. And initially I remembered I was only sick for like 2 days, felt better on the 3rd day when I did the second shot, right? So on day 2, when I was feeling shitty on Saturday, I was like, well, I'm going to feel better tomorrow. And then when I felt way worse the next day, I was like, well, this sucks. This fucking sucks. But I'm going to feel better tomorrow probably, or the next day. I got to feel better. And then Mike's the one that threw it in. Maybe you have COVID. And I was like, oh my God. Right? But I'm sweating profusely right now, just like as if I'm kicking dope out of nowhere. What this vaccine does to your immune system and creates in you is very similar to dope sickness, is it not?
We had this conversation yesterday, Chuck, that the people that are not former heroin addicts don't know what it's like to go through 5 days withdrawal every month. Periodically, you end up with no dope somewhere, kicking,
and you feel like shit, just like I do.
It's the worst pain you've ever been in, and we're so grateful to not have to do that every day when we get,
But do you really think it's the worst pain you've ever been in?
It was at the time.
No, I got my finger cut off. I was there when Mike had endocarditis. That was the worst pain he had ever been through.
Yeah, I thought I was dying, actually. Yeah, I thought I was not going to make it.
We work it up in our head so much that, man, I've been sick kicking.
Maybe you weren't shooting enough dope.
Maybe here, that's an old junkie braggart. So
I know.
So
that
Mike
is so
and
weird.
Chuck, Mike and I
weird
did so much dope. We were so much sicker than you when we were dope sick, bro.
Chuck,
I'm gonna out dope sick you. I'm gonna out dope sick you. That's how sick junkies are.
I know.
Yeah, I got way sicker than you.
Don't trip on it, Chuck.
I hear it every day.
Chuck, hold on. I spilled more dope sickness than you fucking.
Chuck, don't get all bent out of shape. Jesus Christ.
I'm angry.
Chuck, in all fairness, it was 30 fucking years, it's 28 years ago for me. You know what I mean? But I never want to forget the condition I was in. And that's the first rule that I fucking carry with me wherever I go. I never, ever want to forget the condition that I was in when I came into AA. I was sick and yes, it was the worst.
All I'm saying is that AA and NA are not the end all and be all of human existence. So these millions of addicts came out of nowhere in America in the last 10 years. Literally went from 3% of the population to almost 20% of the population in 2 decades. Not all of them have to go to AA and NA. If you're going to be on Suboxone, don't go to NA and AA. Just be on Suboxone and get a job and be a dad and do whatever.
But get a
be
job.
A mom.
But get a job. Go do something.
Yeah, but get on with life.
Right.
That I really truly believe that. I truly believe it's just kind of, I don't know, why go through all the torment of feeling guilty and whatever? People go to AA to stay sober. People go to NA to stay clean. If you're not going to stay sober and clean, why go?
On my hand, I can count 5 people I know that are on Suboxone with a job. They're not taking fentanyl anymore, which means they're not going to die.
Yeah,
they're taking a much lesser. What is this? Why critically?
The point I'm trying to make is, why does everybody think AA is above normal society? I think it's below normal society.
Well, who thinks it's above? Who thinks it's above?
Everybody that's in it that has time always think of, oh yeah, we're living a spiritual life and an unspiritual blah blah blah.
No,
you're not.
I'm
no,
in
you're
AA.
not.
I don't think that.
But thousands of people that I know do. They think we're above, we're better than society because we're whatever we are. I don't think of it that way.
Because we couldn't control our drinking and using. How does that make us any better? It makes us the lowest of the low.
That might be a symptom of just being new in the program and stuff, and outgrowing that whole superiority and looking down on people. That happens when you're a couple of years sober and you're 3 or 4 or 5.
When I was 5, I knew everything.
Yeah.
So I knew everything.
But here's how I look at it. Here's how I look at it. Each individual I know that's sober is a miracle, because I knew them when they were high. For the most part, the majority of them, it's amazing what their lives have become. It's amazing. But why go to all the trouble just to have an amazing, normal life?
Come on, what the fuck?
Oh, that took a weird turn.
Why? You've got to admit that you could have had that life in a straight line if you weren't such an idiot and got on drugs and drunk all the time.
That is some kind of Bob Forrest twisted.
No, I'm telling you.
Why even bother?
You should not
bother.
But what I always think, I'm not saying it's not amazing for people like myself and the three of us to turn our lives around. But I don't think it's something to brag about. I really don't. I think it's something to be kind of embarrassed about.
I'm not going to hide behind anything. I love my complete abstinence from drugs and alcohol. I'm proud of it. I don't brag about it, but you know what? It's not for everybody.
You just said it's been 30 years since you had a drug. That's kind of bragging.
No, I'm proud of it, Bob. I'll never be not proud of being completely sober.
Why does it matter how long we haven't taken drugs? Why does it matter? No, but I'm concerned with that thing. Why does it matter how long we haven't taken drugs for? I like when people, like, there's a big viewer of our podcast who loves this podcast. I've asked him through the decades, like, how much time you have. He always says, I don't know. What year is it? How long sober are you? He doesn't keep track of it that much. It's not, his ego isn't tied to how long he hasn't taken drugs. And I respect that.
You can.
And that's not to suggest he's going to go use, like everybody in AA says, if you don't keep track of every second you haven't taken drugs, you're going in the wrong direction. No, it just is not a top priority to him. Being a dad, being a businessman.
But if somebody uses again, I don't think they've blown everything. I don't think they've lost everything that they've learned. But for me to drink and use, my value of life is so shitty, is so poor that I don't care if I live or die.
But now we're going to get in a real argument, because you don't know that. You're projecting that. You're saying I'm the same. No, you're saying that I'm the same person I was 25 years ago, and you're not. I know.
How do you know that this person doesn't know exactly his sober date? That he knows exactly how long he's been sober?
Oh, no, Mike knows who it is, Chuck, and he's trying to zero in.
He doesn't want to. You just act like, oh yeah, it's like a big deal or whatever. It's just fine. It's fine. Yeah, we talk amongst each other, and really, when we get this age, we don't. Who cares how fucking old we are? One day, 5 years, 30 years. We're all just in the same boat, and the water's on fire.
It's not a lot different than mentioning how old someone is. Like, I'm this age. It's to me, it's no different than saying I haven't had to pick up for this long.
Every time I speak, I do the exact same thing. I say, let me give you the stats. I am 60 years old. I am 26 years sober.
Bragger.
Right? No, but no, because all right. But I'll tell you why. Because every time a speaker spoke when I was new in my first 5 years, I spent so much time trying to figure out those details. How old are they? How old were they when they got sober? How long have they been sober? That type of thing. The math of the sobriety, and that always has been my thing. Like, and the joke is, so if you can do math, if you take 25 minus 60, I got sober when I was 35. I started trying to get sober when I was 21. And the reason why I have that message is it's important, because everyone who's new in that room has tried before.
Yep.
There's very few people. This is the first AA meeting they've ever been to, and this is the first day they've ever tried to be sober. It's mostly people that are getting discouraged. They've been trying for years to get sober, and that's my whole message. is like, listen, I went to my first AA meeting. I had my first 30-day chip when I was 21 years old. I did not get sober till I was 35. That is 14 fucking years of misery.
Yeah.
Right?
I
So if
get it, yeah.
you're struggling and you're beating yourself up, or if you're beating yourself up, or this is your 10th rehab, fuck it. This might be the one. This might be the one.
You're proud of those 26 years. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you could change your whole spiel to like, I'm 61 years old and I've been sober quite a long time and I've had a few ups and downs.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
but then
clever
people are going to
do.
go, what is that, 30 years? What is that, 25 years?
No, you
Because-
know, no, I have experience with that. You want to know? I'm gonna release an AA secret that nobody knows
You're gonna
right
blow
now.
our
Chuck, are
minds.
you ready? Are you gonna
Yeah.
blow minds?
Okay, we're going behind the
A
curtain.
mentor of mine started saying that. Whereas for years, he always said his sobriety date and he always said how many years. He started being vague about it. I noticed his behavior changing. I confronted him and I said, what is your sobriety date? It's just me and him in the office. I said, what's your sobriety date? And he goes, shut up now. Come on, what are you doing? You ain't
I
none of
wonder
your
who that
business.
is.
Yeah, I'm not going to say who it is, but I think everybody who
Oh,
knows
God
knows.
damn, that impression.
And he said, I slipped up. And I go, well, you know why we confess our slipping up? And he goes, oh, now you're going to tell me shit? Get out of my fucking office. And I said, I started backing up because he was walking me out of his office. And I said, we own up to slipping up so that it doesn't kill us.
Right.
Right.
Huh.
And that was, this guy was on 2020 as a beacon of sobriety.
Mhm.
Right. And
This man started a program that saved
thousands of
lives, yeah.
people's lives. But yet he was so tied to that number
Mhm.
that it was hard for him. In the end, he did start talking about it. But it took a long time for him to get comfortable
always
with it.
wondered about this story, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
good for him. I just
Yeah.
had a friend go through that where they were so worried because people put so much value on the days or the years and not the days. And that's not what it is.
well,
I've
what
never
you can
I
tell
never
yourself
wanted
if you're a
long-term
guru,
sobriety.
but if you're a guru, you can tell yourself, hey, it's going to hurt a lot of people, right? Bob Timmons felt that way. I was like, nobody gives a fuck. I
No,
really truly
yeah.
believe that people in AA think that other people think too much about them. They really don't.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
nobody's sitting around thinking
that's my
about
favorite
Bob
old-time
Forrest
thing.
20. Boy, I wonder how Bob's doing today. I wonder how Mike Mark's doing today.
Yeah.
They worry about themselves.
Nobody gives
Like
a fuck.
99% of the day is spent in self.
I love that.
And
That
so
was,
then, but our brain kicks in. I can't tell anybody because they're all going to judge me, or they're all going to be disappointed, or they're going to use, or whatever. And that's why we have tenets of, being honest and kind and forthright. All these kind of ideas that are more important than how long you've been sober. They're more important than the steps, the concepts, right? They're more
Exactly.
important. And like every religion, the details have become the important thing, and the truth is really not. It's kind of like whatever, right? I relate it to Christianity. If you read Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox and the words that Jesus said, there's no way you can justify American Christianity. There is no way, right? Because they're focused on the rules and the details, and they're missing the message. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of parts of the 12-step world that I go to in Southern California. So it's it's better in other parts of the country. But in Southern California, it's gotten so perverted and so weird and so opinionated and so divisive and so this and so that it's missing the message. I stay sober. I try to help another alcoholic to achieve sobriety. That's my only purpose. It's not to become a better person or have everyone idolize me or look up to me or big things that I say that get repeated. And why I started this conversation. Nobody gives a fuck in the real world. In the real world, nobody gives a fuck that you're a big shot in AA. Nobody. Literally fucking nobody.
it's like being the world's
It does
tallest
not
midget.
translate at all.
Yeah.
And you know,
Right?
there's so many people, Bob, that just don't know how to live outside of the world of AA. That's what really was a turnoff for me, as far as staying in the rooms every day of the week, 7 days a week, you know, always doing this, being so dedicated, was because they don't know how to live in the outside world. I knew one guy, and I won't mention his name, but he died of alcoholism. You know, I mean, he had lots of time. Everybody loved him, but he just did not know how to live outside of the walls of AA. You have to take what you learn in here and take it and live in the real world.
Well, you know what it says? This is a design. This is what the Big Book says. I love quoting the Big Book, Chuck. I'm a Big Book thumper.
I had no idea
I
you were a
just
Big Book
thump
thumper.
different parts of the book. I thump parts no one's ever even. They have to go
Come
look
on,
it up.
you're an AA heretic.
I'm an AA Big Book thumper,
I know.
but I thump a different part of the book so much
Bob
so that the
thumps
Big
the
Book
unthumped.
thumpers have confronted me and said it doesn't say that in the book, and I have to go tell them on what page it is. For one thing, we meet on a regular basis so the new person can come and talk about their problem.
Right.
That's why we meet. We meet on a regular basis so the new person can come and talk about their problems. I fought every fucking AA meeting, including Log Cabin, that says newcomers can't speak.
Oh,
what the
my God.
fuck is that?
You're so fucking right, Bob.
It's bullshit.
Don't speak
But
for
it's
the first 60 days. Jesus
it's the
Christ.
standard. It was the standard at Log Cabin for years, and I used to say it's bullshit. We meet on a regular basis so the new person can come and talk about their problem. If you don't want to hear new people talk about problems, don't come to AA.
Exactly.
That's
right?
what it's for.
So that's
Yeah.
one thing. But the part that my sponsor suggested to me, it's time to live in the real world. It said this book is a design for living, a bridge back to the real world.
Nice.
And he had me study it. It's a guy that had less time than me that I just respect so much. And he said, "What does that mean, Bob?" We did, read chapters and what does it mean? And I was like, "Holy fuck!" And he goes, "What do you think it means?" And I said, "It means AA is not the real world.
Yeah.
If you have to have a bridge back to the real world, AA is not the real world, dude."
Right.
That's awesome.
like that's perfect.
That's so
That's like
fucking
a
awesome.
restore us to
So
sanity. It
since
doesn't
then,
say you're crazy.
That was when I was about 8 or 9 years sober. And since then, I always do this thing where if somebody compliments me on how I carry myself or how I handle a situation or whatever, this mostly at work, happens at work a lot. They're like, "How come you're always the calmest under situations like this?" It just happened when we had the death of the terrible tragedy. And I said, AA has taught me how to have dignity. AA has taught me how to live grace under pressure. It hasn't gotten the opinionated asshole everyday me out of me, but it really has taught me how to walk through life not fearful, not catastrophizing, not overreacting to stressful situations. That's probably when I'm at my best. Like I was the calmest one. I was like, "We need to do this, this, and this." And then when something came up, I said, "No, stop that right away. That can't happen. That'll come back to haunt us." I was just calm. I just knew, I accept what's happened, and we just got to be transparent and forthright and fucking deal with what's coming. And most of all, we should think about this young lady's parents.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's not the reaction of a lot of rehab owners, I can tell you, when they're going through that. The parents of the kid are the last people they're thinking of.
I love the way you pulled that back around into a totally different arena, where that's what I think I've learned things about real life, and I don't have to spend every day. And that's why sitting in an Alano club and beating my chest and saying how long I have sober is not, I didn't want long-term sobriety. That wasn't my goal. I just didn't want to keep living the way I was living because I was going to die and it was miserable. It wasn't even about, I didn't want to be somebody. You didn't get to the point where really I was in that state for probably 5 years. I really was in that state. You're saying I knew I was going to die. I was suffering. I wanted to change, but still I couldn't. It wasn't until I realized that I wasn't going to die. I was just going to suffer and be pathetic and everybody make fun of me
And like, it was just going to go on forever, Chuck, like that.
Yeah.
Fucking ever.
Wow. You know,
That's
the police
from the
intervened on my
moment
behalf.
I had that. From the moment I had that experience, it was probably 2 months before I got sober. It was just like, oh my God, I'm not going to die. Because here's what had happened. I'll just tell you the details. Matt, we were hitting rock bottom, like dead in the water, no money, no car, no nothing. And Max was really sick. And Jill, who's the famous Max Jill called in the song on the Bicycle Thief record, Jill and I forget who else was there, came and got her and took her to a hospital because she was very sick from, the liver disease and stuff like that. And they took her, and I was living in the motel on 6th Street, right across from Bonnie Bray, 6th and Bonnie Bray. And I had 2 more days left in that room. And I had a black and white TV that wouldn't unscramble. You could watch it, and then it would fade up, like that thing.
But,
and you're just constantly trying to do that vertical hold, and it just won't. You get it locked in, and then you go back to your bed, and it just like starts slipping up again. Oh my God! And no money, and I'm on methadone at the methadone clinic on Alexis. It was Jill and Alexis came. Alexis, a friend of Mike's and I's, and I was on the methadone program, and I didn't sleep those whole 2 days until I had to move my shit out and get out of there. And I was like, this is just how it's going to be. She's either going to die or get sober. I'm going to be left behind. And I'm going to become one of these people living in MacArthur Park. And that's what happened. That reality of like, no, I'm not going to die some Jim Morrison glorious death. I'm way beyond that now.
Yeah.
Right?
You missed that window.
It's just this kind of life here on out.
Yeah. And just pathetic looks like, look at that fool. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I had already gone through the humiliation of all that, but it was just going to be, kind of MacArthur Park and trying to come up with a $20 hustle and methadone. And, it was just kind of going to be that. Like, I think I'd ever see Mike again, or Anthony and Flea, or Louie, or or Keith. I was just like, they were living in an alternate universe, and I was never going back there. And I was just going to live in this drug-infested misery.
Was that when Billy Preston lived in the MacArthur Park? He lived in MacArthur Park for a while, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of people came and went. Scott Weiland was down there with me for a few days. He was just slumming, though. He was just slumming.
Just cruising through.
But that was a great couple of days, Chuck, I got to tell you. I'm just walking down the street, and I see Scott crossing the light to go cop. Like, he had parked his car up above 6th Street and was going to cop. I was like, buddy, dude, where are you going? Where are you going? Hold on. Because I knew if I could latch onto him, this is going to be a good ride. Right?
Yeah.
And it was. And but then he went back to fabulous land that he came from, and I was still there.
Right.
And I remember Danita came by one time, and I was just like, oh, could I borrow $20? And she goes, borrow or have? And I was like, I guess have. Can I have?
Can I have?
Yeah.
I love that. Don't you love that term, Chuck? Borrow or have?
Well, we are always lying about borrowing money or borrowing a cigarette. We never give a cigarette back. We smoke it.
Can I borrow a cigarette?
Yeah, let me bum a smoke.
That's a good one. All right, well, so and God bless Charlie Watts. I don't know about you guys. What song did you listen to today? I listened to weirdest song that he plays the greatest drums on, and I'm sure no one in Stones Land listened to it today. But on It's Only Rock and Roll, they do Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and the drums are fucking amazing. Yeah, I know you're gonna leave me, bum bum, refuse to let you go. Whatever you're doing today, put on a Charlie Watts drum beat.
Wild Horses was the one, man, for me.
Boom, boom, boom.
So every time he played what the song needed. You know, and drummers just don't do that every day, man. They play what they want to play.
Neil Peart did not do that.
Neil Peart did not do that.
Him and
Yeah.
Ringo fit the songs.
There was a lot of pictures of Charlie and Ringo online today, and I was thinking, are they trying to say he's next? Come on now, because Ringo's older than Charlie Watts. All right, you guys, good night. Listen to some
Good
Stones.
night.
See you next
Get
time.
well, Bobby.
Bye.
Don't
Thank
die,
you, Mike.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Listen, I hope you got something out of this. Bye, everybody.
Don't die.
Don't die. Bye, Chuck.
Bye, Mike.